Well, predictably enough, I came up with another reason to not start doing sales activity. And what that reason is that, well, basically, I had the automation, the creation of a chatbot, including a blog bot, a postmaker bot, the website browser bot, the review bot, and the rag bot. I had that. It's totally automated except for the rag bot. Actually, I mean, I shouldn't say totally automated. I still have to. I mean, I can for the review bots, the feed bots. I can make them many at a time. I can put in a whole entire list and make them at a time, and they go into the same directory. So it's not automated. It's automated except for that I have to paste in the URLs. That's all there is. And then for the yeah, for the review bots, it's the same, but Google Places API doesn't always find the right place just based on the URL. Sometimes you have to give it the name of the company and the city for it to actually find the right place. Um, but for the most part, all of that those pieces could be done very quickly. Uh, and then so that came so then for the rag bots, um, the time consuming part was creating the JSON objects and uploading it to the vector database. But I'm now capable, I can now do that um, very quickly. Allow me to demonstrate. Um, you know what? Let's just start with a totally new list. Um, let's do Iowa. Make a list of SEO companies in Iowa. Now you definitely want to turn on web search. Apparently, I'm not allowed to turn on web search. I don't know what happened with that. Why is it answering me in Chinese? Why would it do that? But I think this response you can see is like it's very much like creating a website on the fly, and that's sort of the idea behind my chatbots as well. And 如果你愿意，我可以帮你筛选香港公司。It's answering in Cantonese. What the? It has been doing weird stuff today. Um, I wonder if that's just what do I have? I have my huh. How do I do the settings? Even if my thing is set to speaking in Cantonese, that still doesn't. It's set to American English. Wild. That's what my phone was doing before. Just provide the URLs and no other information. Are all of these in Iowa rather than just serving Iowa? I should really need to grab some water, otherwise what's gonna happen? I'm going to start drinking this energy drink instead of water. 清理剂加5个公司，请你再加5家公司，确认他们是 Dude, what? Okay, so if I speak in English, it auto translates to Chinese, but if I speak in Chinese, I'm saying, what is happening here? Can you find 10 more agencies to add to the list and make sure that they are in Iowa as instead of just serving Iowa? Are
好，以下另外10間喺愛荷華州實體設置嘅 SEO 或數碼營銷機構 Digital, Cedar Rapids, Illuminate Digital 2, Fluid Minds Consulting Dubuque.
I don't think that was Cantonese either. It was like trying to read Cantonese in Mandarin. Things are very confused right now. Can you find 10 more to add to the list? I really do wonder how many SEO agencies are in Iowa. Are you totally sure that all of these agencies have their headquarters in Iowa rather than simply serve Iowa?
唔完全肯定喎，以下係我揾到嘅情況。Brew Compass 嘅地址顯示係201 Subat Est Suite 208 West Des Moines IA 5066。Brewcompass.com Thrive Internet Marketing Agency。雖然你可能見到係愛荷華州被提及，但佢嘅官網顯示其總部主要辦公室為其他州，例如漢薩斯省、洛杉磯等。Thrive Internet Marketing Agency。所以唔可以保證你之前列出嘅10間所有公司都係總部暨南辦公室喺愛荷華州，只係確認有某啲公司卡實。如果你想，我可以幫你查每間公司嘅總部所在地，再做驗證。
如果你想，我可以帮你查每间公司，还总部所在地在做演讲. That was where I think it started in Mandarin with just like saying just the characters that are purely Cantonese characters in Cantonese, and then it switched to speaking actual Cantonese halfway through. um, Provide the entire list of URLs in a code box. Just the URLs, no other information in the code box. Okay, now we're going to check if they are, in fact, WordPress sites. Oh, well, okay. So first thing I'm going to do is add them to this list here. So, so we got Iowa. Let's see what Iowa's posting about. 0 posts in the last 14 days for everybody except for easymarketing.com and macdigitaldesign.com. I am going to do a little bit of housekeeping right now because Mac Digital shows up every time I search for SEO agencies anywhere in the world. Mac Digital will show up. They'll and remove them from they get in there too deep. Can't even tell our story. Let's check my for. Okay, never mind. There's no Mac Digital there. Would have thought that it's in there 10 times over. Okay, so they're in New Jersey, Bordentown, New Jersey, Iowa, and delete Mac Digital Design. And then I'm going to yell at ChatGPT for making a mistake. It's very important. A lot of people skip that step. Can you check again if Mac Digital Design is from Iowa? I want to make sure we get the audio on this, so I'm reloading that tab.
我查咗 Amic Digital Design 其實總部係新澤西州 Bordentown NJ partnersbigcommerce.com，所以唔係喺愛荷華州。
So that's just the weirdest mix of Mandarin and Cantonese. That it's kind of like me reading Cantonese, where it's like I can't not read the Mandarin. So the only ones that I read in Cantonese are the ones that are only in Cantonese. Like this, whatever. Okay, I can't do things. What was in the search results that made you think Mac Digital Design was from Iowa? Wow, really? What is the URL for Max Digital Web Design Iowa? Okay. Wah, wah, wah. All right, so it's not. I would have loved to add the actual Max Digital to the list, but they are not using WordPress. So let's start over. Whoops, what happened here? Wow, Easy Marketing just posted. All right, let's learn a little something about Easy Marketing because they're the only active posters on here. Division of Easy Solutions. They're based in Pennsylvania. They're definitely not based in Iowa. Kind of had a suspicion about that. I wonder if I mean, are any of these actually Iowa? I'm afraid to look. Anyways, we got 9. Now, I kind of had forgotten, but I added like a city element to JSON response. Where are you at? Right. So I got to set the city to Iowa, everybody's favorite city. This is reflecting in my eyeball. Still kind of reflecting in my eyeball. Okay, so I updated the city to Iowa. Now I also have to make a new vector database. I'm realizing I turned this process into a very complicated process, but I kind of had to do it because the vector database was getting really big. Percent sure about this. Let me ask ChatGPT about it. Um, but it's my understanding that when you make a query to a vector database, it searches across all of the documents in the vector database. So that means that how much that API call is going to cost is depending on how big the vector database is. So the more files I add to that vector database, the more each use of it costs. And it was getting to be where it was like one question would cost like 2 cents. And it's like, okay, so I needed to make multiple vector databases. I had to split them up, which is unfortunate because obviously the whole point of the vector database is that just everything goes in there and you're able to find everything. But until I find a situation where there's a use case where we need that and it's worth the money, there's no reason to be, building up these giant bills. Although that's it. I mean, even with the real bills that I'm building up were with the automated uh, creating the JSON objects because I'm scraping the content of the entire site and then sending it to the API through the WordPress API. Scraping the content of the entire site with the WordPress API, then sending it to OpenAI API, and then I'm scraping the entire content through the HTML and then sending that to the WordPress API. Then I'm taking the entire graph that's built of that and uploading it to the vector database. So that costs way more money than just querying the vector database. But that's like not something you would not have to do constantly. But the whole idea of the vector database would be that you use it a lot. So does the cost of an API call to a OpenAI vector database increase as the number of documents inside of the vector database increases? That's weird how it just magically learned how to speak English. Okay. Well, it's telling me no. It's telling me the answer is no. That you're charged for the tokens used in the query and the tokens used in the retrieved content, but you're not charged for the search over the documents. That's what it's saying. So in theory, there is no actual reason why I should create a new vector database right now. And then I have to keep track of it and stuff. But at least for the time being, there is one other benefit to this, which is that when I'm going through to make the demos and I need a list of which which companies have already been uploaded to the vector database, and if all of the companies are in one vector database, it gets really hard to keep track. But if I can go to the Iowa SEO companies vector database and there's only 9 companies listed, then that's going to be easy. Um, okay, so I still need to update one more file. What is that file? We're getting a lot of JSON. Um, ooh, I do not remember what was the last place I did DB1. Let's see here. Which one is Chicago? Okay, that's Chicago. But the other thing which I was going to get into, oh my God, um, which is kind of where I was attempting to go with all of this, is that um, once you have that graph, at least for the rag bot within the demo, you don't really need the vector database. You don't need to make an API call to the vector database. I think you could just take the graph and put it in the system prompt. Because I'm just seeing on my usage that the file calls are like the most expensive ones, but I don't know. It might. I guess if like even if you have a lot of documents, if it's just grabbing the appropriate part of the graph and using that in its response, then that will end up being fewer tokens than if you're sending the entire graph with every system prompt, with every API call. Okay, so we should be all set up to run to do a run of Iowa. No, we are not all set up. We still got one more file to edit. This is needs to be smoother, but hey, I just made this last week, so what can you really expect? This might not work because I think I disabled my API key. Um, all right, I'm just going to refresh this. It's just no way to share the like the networking tab on because all the action is in the networking tab. Anyways, though, so the point is that what this will do is it will run through that list. It'll go through all 9 of those. And because it's JavaScript, well, first of all, because it's JavaScript, it gets blocked by my server a lot. Like they have all sorts of security modules that make it so that if you try to like if you try to do any big file operations initiated with JavaScript, they get blocked. Um, However, like if it was PHP, it would just if there was an error, it would be over, and you'd have to chain everything together. Like if you were to feed it a whole array and then be like, go through this whole array. If there's an error anywhere in the array, it would probably the whole script would fail. But what we're doing instead of putting the whole array in PHP is we're putting the array in JavaScript, and then it's calling that file and sending it one, and then and then when it's done processing one, it processes the next one. Now the reason I set this up originally was because I thought I would make it a lot faster by processing all three, by processing. Wait, what is even happening here? By processing the files simultaneously, which I still probably could, because as you can see, it's very slow. It is actually really slow, and we're getting like no feedback here. What is even happening? Nothing is happening. Um, but even though it is still slow, and there's a lot of ways I could make it a lot faster. Uh, but for the most part, I can just run it, and it just keeps running. And when it fails, um, when the PHP fails, it's fine because the JavaScript is just going to call the PHP again with a different URL again. So it doesn't like fail fatally. It keeps running. And so what ends up happening is I end up with, well, first of all, I end up with a lot of stuff in the vector database. I end up with a lot of graphs in the vector database, but I also end up with a lot of graphs. And these are the graphs. These are just 5 sample graphs. This is not in the same directory as the ones that are being generated automatically. I think they're being generated automatically. Oh my God, this is not going well. You know, my problem here is not that it's not doing anything, but that it's not in the network tab, there's nothing going on. It's not showing me the requests that are being made, and it's not doing anything. Anyways, well, it was working well last night. Um, so eventually, in theory, we should have 9 graphs that look like this. So this is the graph that it creates and uploads to the vector database. It's kind of a lot. And again, it is based on first taking all of the content from the site through the WordPress API, and then sending that to OpenAI and having it generate a JSON object with persons and services and FAQ. And then grabbing all the HTML from the site and doing the same exact thing. And then grabbing all the JSON objects from the site and merging them together and taking the first two, merging those two together all into this one graph, which is a good representation of the website. And if the website is a then it's a good representation of the organization as well. So, um, so because it was like able to, dude, it is just not. I'm not getting anything out of this. No response, no anything. So anyways, I have a ton of these graphs. I have hundreds of these graphs, and I can create them in a automated way. Like I just have to pop in a whole list, and then it will go through the whole list eventually, hopefully, maybe not. Uh, so like I said, I can create the feed bots pretty easily. I can create the rag bot or the review bots pretty easily. Um, but then things get bogged down. They would get bogged down with the creation of these JSON objects, but now that is totally automated, and I can go through a whole list of them in one go. Despite that, that is not working right now. I don't know why. Should I check the error log? What the hell is going on? Nope, error log doesn't have any useful information really. Okay, so the thing is, it's literally not. There we go. Finally got something out of the thing. Okay, so anyways, well, a couple of things here. Like, really, all the other bots should start from here because this is all the information of the company. So, so if this is the trigger to create all the other bots, then right now, like the feed bot, the browser bot, they just need the URL. The postmaker bot just needs the URL. The review bot usually just needs the URL, but sometimes it needs like the company name and the address. Uh, what am I missing? I don't know. I always, but and then this is the rag bot needs this. So, but for future, in the future, maybe I would want more information about the company for the use of the creation of any of those bots. And so if this is the trigger to run the files that create the bots, then it has all of the information and it can utilize it. Or I'm working on it, utilizing it. Like this right here is the this organization that's parsing it with PHP and pulling that out of this. So in theory, like any of the information in here can be parsed and pulled out in that same way. And then if I want to use Google Places API to look up, uh, yeah, it's in the. I can't show that on screen, but uh, so it uses this name to do a Google Places API call, and so that's what we need in order to make a review bot. If we have that, we can make the review bot. Um, so this is should be the starting point for all of the. But also, I now have a button that just creates the rag bot system file. Um, but I suppose so. In theory, it should be that it creates the object, uploads it to the vector database, triggers the review bot, triggers the feed bot, triggers the feed bot automatically triggers the browser bot, triggers the postmaker bot, triggers the what, and then it automatically has a rag bot because this is the rag bot. Um, and then the only last part is the manifest. And then I could just put at the end of that whole chain of events, send email. And it already has the email to send it to from this graph. It should. Um, so I'm kind of just trying to wrap my head around how do I, okay, so now that I can generate these graphs, which let's check in on that. Is it generating anything? Still nothing. What is happening? Literally nothing is happening. This is ridiculous. So anyways, so yeah, so that if I'm generating these graphs and I can generate them, okay, so that was a fail. 503 service unavailable. That's what happens when th- my my server is blocking the things that I'm attempting to do. But at least we got some response. Holy crap, that was ridiculous. Took for so long just to get a fail. Anyways, but even with all the fails and stuff like that, and it's like I don't have to manually control it. I can just press go and then walk away. So, so yeah, so we could create these graphs in an automated way. So that should be the trigger. Like, and once we get the graph, then it automatically runs the review bot, and then it runs the feed bot, and then it runs the postmaker bot and the browser bot, and then I want to say then it sends an email to the company, and then in theory I can just have that running totally automatically. So as soon as I build the lists, which if I'm building the lists all day, then eventually like that I can automate that piece too. But like as soon as I pop a list in there and then uh, it'll just go through the whole list and build the graph and upload to the vector database and make the rag bot and make the uh, feed bot, which makes the browser bot, make the postmaker bot, um, and the review bot, and then send an email to the company saying, "Hey, we just made you a demo to check it out." So I could do, hundreds per day. Not just hundreds of sales emails per day, hundreds of here's a completed demo for your company per day. Um, but the reason I hesitate to say the thing about the email is that there is still one more step, which is the manifest. Uh, and ultimately, I can automate the creation of the manifest, but the manifest is how it all gets packaged together and how it all works together. So it's pretty easy to automate actually, but I would still want to like spend a few more runs of like doing it manually to make sure that I'm doing it the way I want it to be done. And then, which is also true of the emails, I would want to like craft the emails manually for a while, make sure that they're saying what I want them to say before I just let it rip. All right, we have not had a single. Oh no, we got one. Looks like we got two. So yeah, so this is so I was gonna, and then I'll just delete the ones that went through. We'll just delete those from the list and run it again. Keep doing that until there's none left on the list. And like, so I have all these graphs. So now the question is, how do I make that trigger all of the other bots so that the whole demo creation process is one step closer to being automated? And then how do I have it automatically send an email with the link to the demo? But yeah, so right now I have a make regbot button right here, and I think I'll just have a make, and then, well, this doesn't make the review bot, but it determines whether or not we have the information we need to make a review bot. So I don't know really. I thought that talking through this would help me determine what is the next step. Um, I do know that, I mean, I have these vector databases. I have Atlanta, Boston, and Chicago, and I basically haven't made demos from any of them. So I guess the thing to do is just go through the process of making the demos for them, and then as I'm doing the same thing over and over again, I'll be like, okay, I can automate this piece, and then automate this piece, and then automate this piece, and then eventually the whole thing's automated. Show. All right, we're at White Peak IO. But I guess for the ones, so for the ones that are already done, I'm gonna copy them over. Ew. I think I messed that one up. I think I might have created a problem here. Um, okay, so switch back viewer. Actually, I cannot share that on YouTube, so whatever. Now, when I refresh this, we should see the new Iowa ones, and there should be three of them. One, two. There's only two. So I did mess one up. I knew I had messed that up. It's not good. Iowa DNB.com is the one that I'm missing. So we got Amplimark and we got WebSpec, but we do not have Iowa DNB.com. So let's just redo that. All right, so now let's see here. Now we have Iowa DNB.com. Let's check that one out. Okay, doesn't work. At least not all of the Iowa ones didn't work. That's for sure. All right, so 2 worked and 1 didn't. This is pretty small though. This is a very small graph. So I'm guessing when they're small, a lot of times what that means is that it didn't go successfully and make it through the whole process. It just got cut off before all 3 are merged. But that said, um, if that's the case, then there would be 2 objects rather than just 1 object. So it's just, which is great. It's good that it's small. It's possible there's nothing wrong with the Iowa. Which one was it that didn't work? That one. It's possible there's nothing wrong with it and it's just a big file and then my server doesn't like me trying to grab a big file. All right, anyway, so for each of these, let's see whether or not place found, Urbandale, Iowa. Great. 5907 Meredith Drive, Urbandale, Iowa. Is that also in the? Yep. But we didn't pull that out of this graph. We grabbed it. We used the Google Places API to find that. Okay, so I can make a rag bot for them just like this. Now this one we can't load. This one. Huh. Seems like that second one didn't actually work. So we got web spec and we should have Amplimark. Okay, there it is. Okay, so what we want to do here is just make a full demo for these 2 Iowa companies. Why not? Oops, I did not go to the right URL. Okay, so for the feedbacks, we got amplimark.com and webspec.com. All right. If I can copy these, can reuse this for the review bots. Okay, Amplimark, Iowa. Is that the same address that we got for them? I don't know. I'm not really seeing an address on there, so maybe it is. And the second one is WebSpec, Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, now I just want to make sure I went to the same folder: WebSpec.com, Amplimark.com, WebSpec.com, Amplimark.com. Okay, make postmaker. https://webspec.com. Okay, so we now have that, and now I need to copy the rags over. You see, this is an extremely inefficient process. So um, this is the process that needs to be automated. Okay, and now if I go to the directories for those two demos, I should see well, you know what? Screw going to the directories. Let's just go to the URL. Let's see. Okay, so we got a postmaker bot, we got a rag bot, we got a review bot, we got a blog bot, we got a browser bot. Let's start with the blog bot. And it's showing them the actual file names. It's because it doesn't have a manifest. Once it has a manifest, the manifest maps like friendly names to file names. Um, and there is like a part of the prompt is to create friendly names for these, but it sometimes does and sometimes doesn't. Amplimark, SEO, of course. We always want to hear about SEO or GEO. Back, but other than that, it works fine. Nope. Wow, that was a good answer. Because it's like, well, it doesn't have the keyword generative engine optimization, but generative engine optimization, generally speaking, is AI and SEO. And so here's articles about AI/SEO. Oops, why did I? So this brought me to July 29th, 2025. So they're not fully that outdated. Okay. Let's try the rag. Oh, okay. Hello. Um, right. So the thing about the rag is that I need to put the vector database ID in the prompt. And if it doesn't have a vector database ID, then I assume that would cause it to just fail like it just did. Where was I? There we go. And I'm gonna have to do that for the next one as well. Oops, this is not the one we're looking for. Nope, we don't even need that anymore. We need this one. There we go. Okay. I think it'll work now. There we go. Just like that. Don't even have to start a new chat. Bom, bom, bom. Okay. I don't know why that happens. That's been happening though, where it's like, ooh, that didn't look like a URL for. Uh, no. Try again to provide the LinkedIn URL. It was providing me the URL to the LinkedIn icon from their website as opposed to mother of fuck. Look in the same as section for their LinkedIn link. You are giving me a link to the icon. Let's whether or not we have any more Iowa companies. This is these files are not ideal in many ways. For starters, it's just it skips over every page that is more than 9,000 characters, which is okay. But I mean, like the company page with 9,700 characters, or like I should probably just put the limit a little higher. Terms of use, I definitely happy to skip over that. Blog is definitely would like to skip over that. But anyway, so sometimes it skips over things that should be included because that the 9,000 characters is like a very arbitrary. But here's the thing is that even though there's a character limit per page, there's no character limit in total. So if they have a lot of pages that have less than 9,000 characters, they could have 1,000 pages, and my thing is going to scrape all 1,000 pages and add it all into the thing and send it to OpenAI, and then OpenAI is going to say you've exceeded the context window, and then the whole thing is going to fail. So there should really be a higher limit per page, but then a total limit where it just stops getting new pages beyond that many characters so that it doesn't fail because of the because it exceeds the context window. Um, but I don't really feel like doing all that, at least not right now. All right, we're all done. Now, let me check the vector database and everything that actually got uploaded, I'm going to delete. And then anything that's left, we're going to run it again and see if we can get it in there. Damn, that Iowa D&D BCom got in here 3 times. I think that that's probably why it didn't load when I try to see it in the JSON viewer, is because it was one of the like, I probably it ran and then I, like, aborted the process in the middle of it running. So, I'm just gonna go to all the different areas which is many, where I have stored that file and delete it from all of them because I think it's like a corrupted file due to me aborting the process right while I was in the middle of running it. So feedbots, graphbots, JSON bots, man, people smoking cot or some shit up in here. All right, that one has been deleted many times. We're gonna redo it. So web spec is done. Amplimark is done. Not only done, but the demo is done. Lessingflynn.com is done. Saltech Systems is done. Flying Hippo is done. So we got aeleave.com, iowadmb.com, thepixel.com, and whitepeak.io still in there. And let's rerun it and see if we can get them this time, or at least figure out what the errors are. Which not that it even matters. It doesn't even matter because it's like if I have this many demos, then like if there are some that don't go through because of an error, then who cares? Like just focus on the ones that went through. It is not worth spending time uh figuring out why one demo didn't work when I could just create another 100 demos in that same amount of time. Like, but anyways, that whole process that I just demonstrated where um to make the demo, to make this demo, though that last piece of the process, it needs to be okay. Total freezing up. It needs to be automated. All right, so let's try web spec. There we go. We got the everything. We got the everything. I basically never even test the review bots anymore. They always work. I never run into problems with the review bots, so I kind of just stopped testing them. Okay. So, yep, it worked. The rag bot, that's the big question here. Um, who is their founder? Nice. What's the company? LinkedIn. Oh, maybe this is the point at which I should send them a message with the demo, but it's coming off really weirdish. Let's check the browser bot. But that would be like a good work process at this point. If I just want to stop at this level of automation for now, try to do some sales, I could make that, the last thing I test is the rag. And in the event that it tells me the company LinkedIn, I go on there, I follow them, I send them a message. All right, now this has been filtered. They may have many more pages than this, which we could look right here and figure it out pretty easily. Web spec. Let's see here. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of web page objects, so whatever. Um, Not that we want those. Anyways, so let's find out about web spec. A full-service web agency that stands out in a crowded market of web design companies, SEO experts, and marketing consultants, founded in 2001 by Jeremiah Terhark from his family's farm in north central Iowa. Wow, that's interesting. WebSpec has grown from a one-person operation to a team of over 50 skilled professionals. Good job, Jeremiah. Self-taught PHP developer. I like self-taught PHP developers. Began by selling websites door to door. Wow. Anyways, yeah, so Jeremiah would be an awesome person to work with. There's definitely it has acquired several companies. Damn, this guy's killing it. EDGE, the design group, build this. I'm kind of curious now that I read all that because that was really good info. I'm kind of curious whether there's any other info on the page that was missed. Wow, it actually totally rearranged the info. It very much summarized it, but in a good way. Like it, in my opinion, it really um, got to the gave me exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so that seems to all work pretty well. Should we find out more about their services? I'm curious if the sure, let's learn about their services. Oh, they do print, digital marketing, web design and development, print design and branding, web application development. Cool, cool. email marketing aspect. How much does the email marketing cost? How do I contact them? Interesting. I mean, that's just like there's different, the browser bot does things. Is it one way of doing things? And I can't switch to another bot when I'm in the browser bot, unfortunately. I should really fix that. It's high on my list of priorities, especially if I'm popping them out hundreds at a time, because whatever the fix is, I'm going to have to redo that hundreds of time or just delete the ones that exist and recreate them entirely for that one little fix. Um, that said, if I'm not bogged down editing files like that and I'm creating ways to automate hundreds of them at the same time, then there's no, then like if I have to recreate hundreds of them, then it's not a big deal. But anyways, so oh, I was curious what the rag would say if I asked like the same questions. Um, do you do email marketing? What does email marketing cost? Oof. Interesting. I mean, that's maybe in the demos, I should be going through these sorts of questions a little bit more. But let me see this. What was I trying to do here? Okay, so the final thing I'm curious about is if I just ask that same set of questions without choosing a bot first, then it should choose the best bot to answer the question for me. But what I can do is in the manifest, I include an FAQ. So if you ask any question that is relevant, where the answer is in the FAQ, then it's just gonna answer it directly. But if you don't, if it's not in the FAQ, then I can set it to either automatically go to the browser bot or automatically go to the RAG. Probably the RAG is the best option there. Um, oh man, I've had this on the wrong thing the whole time. That's terrible. So for the record, the RAG bot gave a good response, probably better than the browser bot. Um, it included their email and their phone number, their office hours. but it was also concise. Here's the thing. Whoa. So I asked, "Do you do email marketing?" And it chose the blog post maker, which is by far the worst one that it could possibly have chosen. And then it just made up a bunch of shit. Oh, that's not good. That's like as bad as it gets. Uh, okay. It managed to get worse. So it just answered like in general, like as if you're just asking ChatGPT a question without giving you, without taking into consideration the context of this company and without choosing a bot. Which bot would best answer uh, of the available bots, which one would best answer my question about email marketing? Clearly, it went with the blog bot, which is wrong. Very wrong. Okay, anyway, so the thing to do now is to make a manifest and then test it again with very similar lines of question, but with the manifest and see if it does a better job. Make a manifest for web. I want to get their how they, how they. I was gonna say I want to get their branding, like how they refer to themselves properly. So I pulled up their website, and all I see is the logo, Web Spec Agency in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm afraid to I'm afraid to enter it by voice because it might think I'm speaking Cantonese and then turn the whole conversation into a Cantonese conversation. Make a manifest for Web Spec Agency in Iowa. This is very minimal manifest. Uh, So, but the true test of the manifest is not choosing a bot and just talking to it and seeing if it does a good job of choosing bots for you. Because that's the whole point of the manifest is to uh, give it self-awareness and give it the ability to know what its own tools do, and then it can choose which tool to use based on your input. But yeah, like I said, that's a very minimal manifest. It could be a lot better. Um, and also, the idea is it should really have, I mean, I could put the entire graph for this company into the manifest. And I probably should do that just to see what happens, just as a test one time. But ideally, I would like to add at least like the FAQ, the FAQ that's auto generated and in the graph, and then give it like specific instructions that it should answer from the FAQ. And if the question is not covered by the FAQ, then which one it should go to, which I guess is the RAGBot. Also, well, yeah, okay. So I really need to have a web form in each demo. And probably I would love to have like the SEO analysis bot in each demo. And that's where I was kind of struggling before is that like, so I wanted the manifest to actually be the FAQ bot and the web form bot and to be the one that determines whether or not to trigger the SEO analysis bot. That's what I want. I don't know why. It's too much. It's going in three different directions. When I've tried to put all three together, it doesn't work. I should really figure out which one. I don't know. It's kind of a stupid thought, especially because then it's like I'm burying these things that I want the companies to see. Okay. Did I save that manifest? Yes, I did. All right. So let's try it again. So now it has more friendly names because they're defined in the manifest. However, quite often it gets the file names wrong. Yep. So that didn't work. I mean, and there's no reason why it wouldn't get the file names wrong because I didn't give it the right. But this is something that very much needs to be automated. Okay, so let's see here. Correct web spec review bot. Web spec com blog bot, all lowercase. This is also like really easy to automate. The fact that I haven't already done it is kind of stupid, but I kind of like focus on automating the stuff that's hard to automate first, and then I just never get around to the ones that are not difficult. Web spec compost maker. Web spec rag. So the main thing is it like for web spec, it just capitalized the S in all of the file names. So I basically just had to give it a lowercase s. And now it should work. But you can see if I'm popping out 100 of these at a time, that I can't be doing that for 100 of them at a time manually. Okay, so it is pulling up the right ones. Uh, do you do email marketing? Okay, so really in the manifest, it should give instructions like you are the agent of this company. Here is basic information about this company. Um, and if they ask a question, and actually the reason why I didn't know what question I was referring to is because I made it so that the index bot, which I don't know why it's not saying index bot up here, it should be. That's weird. The index bot only gets the most recent user message. Because before it would get hung up on previous messages and use that to switch the bots. So, so now I'm gonna say yes, and it probably won't switch because it's now it's lying to me. Now it's lying and saying that it switched bots, but it didn't. Okay, so that's all quite frustrating. I mean, it's not like far off, but it's clearly not where I would like it to be. But that is just a matter of messing with the manifest. So after I fully automate this ragbot creation process, um, then I will then like the only part of the isn't already automated is the manifests. So that will be the part where I do a lot of testing of editing the manifests and making it so that it knows what each bot is capable of and choosing the bots, and it knows that its role is to choose a bot rather than to answer, I guess, or answer. Um, okay, let's check in here. So we got Iowa DNB. Looks like that went through. Nope. Iowa DMB we didn't get because the context length was exceeded. And then White Peak didn't work. So basically, we didn't get any of those. Do I still have the... Yep. But the Iowa DNB com did make it into the well, shit. See, that's the thing. I can't actually test it because it's an Iowa thing. So if I ask my main vector database, that won't accomplish anything. Anyway, so let's just get rid of Iowa DMB and run it one more time. See if we can get the other ones in. All right. Anyway, so that's the state that things are in right now, is that I can make these graphs pretty easily, and now I can make the rag system prompt with a press of the button. And then I just need to make it go into the correct directory. Making the feed bots is easy, making the review bots is easy. Postmaker bots, I can only do them one at a time. It should just be able to follow the same pattern as the feed bot to make it be able to handle multiple at a time. The reason I didn't do that though is because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I wanted to chain making different types of bots together or be able to handle them in batch. Um, but ideally both. And I think that's kind of what I'm working towards here. So, but anyway, so I can make the graph in like an automated way. Then it makes a reg bot. Then it makes and then that's wow, my stomach is farting internally. Right. So I guess the thing is right now is just to make the creation of the graph the trigger, and then that creates a chain of making all the other things, except for the manifest. And then I just need to work on making the manifest the better, I guess. And then I will have a system where I can just pop in a list of 20 URLs or 50 URLs, and it will just sit there working its way through all of them. And for each one, it uh, creates the object, uploads the object to the vector database, creates the reg bot, creates the review bot, creates the feed bot, creates the browser bot, creates the postmaker bot, uh, and then creates a manifest to package them all together, and then sends an email to the company saying, check out this demo.